Politics program is brought to you, as always, by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That is where you can support this show. It is our Patreon. It is now solely dedicated to politics. It is where for $3 a week, a mere $3 a week, you spend more than $3 a week on coffee or a Red Bull. You can get 2 extra versions of this podcast, one on Monday, one on Friday. And folks, the Monday one this week got my initial reaction to one of the stories we were going to talk about here. And boy, was it something to listen to. Go ahead and get it in your life. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. But enough of talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes. Come on, come on, come on.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Politics podcast. My name is Justin Robert Young. I will be your humble host for this episode. But you want to know what? You can call me Gerbs. The midterms. Old heads. Write it down here in the chat. Of course, we're streaming live here, twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. What I love about the midterms, and the old school folks know it, is that you get a lot of people that don't have a lot of political experience that all of a sudden are getting a lot of attention. So beyond all the context of what's happening now, beyond all the all the consequences that could happen from it, you're just getting a lot of people out here that are they're not used to it. This is where the rubber is meeting the road, and sometimes you find thoroughbreds. I'm mixing metaphors here, but sometimes you find people that are born to do it. And sometimes when the rubber meets the road, the tire just completely loses structural integrity and flies off into the sunset. And every once in a while, when one of those situations happens, it's so beautiful. It is one of my favorite things in the world, which is why I would like to direct your attention to maybe my favorite story of this entire process. Folks, Bigfoot's dick is in the news. Yeah. Bigfoot's dick is now an official part of the Wave Watch. This is a House seat, a Virginia House seat. If the Democrats are most likely to take any part of Congress, it is going to be the House. And a Democratic hopeful decided to make her opponent's supposed alleged love for Bigfoot erotica a campaign issue. Now, I know many of you might be from out of the country and not understand what I just said. Yes, Bigfoot erotica. See, there's a long, glowing history in the literary world, in the literature world, where people like to fuck monsters. They love it. Find a vampire, fucking that vampire. Find a werewolf, I'm going to fuck that werewolf. And it's all written about. Sometimes they really class it up and they make gigantic franchises out of it like Twilight. I mean, hell, the current reigning, defending best picture from the Academy Awards is a woman who fucked a fish man. People love it. Bigfoot is no different. Bigfoot lives in the woods. People go in there, and Bigfoot has the sex with them. bangs him out. Now here's, so now that you know that that's a thing, let's go ahead and get into this story specifically. Bigfoot erotica row. I had to pick the BBC article. Bigfoot erotica row turns Virginia congressional race ugly. A hotly contested U.S. congressional race has turned Sasquatch ugly after one candidate accused the other of being, quote, a devotee of Bigfoot erotica, end quote. The row began after a Democratic candidate in Virginia tweeted an image of the beast taken from the Instagram account of her Republican rival. This is not what we need on Capitol Hill, Democrat Leslie Cockburn wrote with the drawing of a naked Sasquatch. Republican Denver Riggleman denies he was writing a book about Bigfoot sex. If I'm going to describe the picture for you that came off of Denver Riggleman's Insta at the point that this was taken, it had 21 likes and had the caption, cover art for, quote, mating habits of Bigfoot is almost complete. I hide nothing in this magnificent tome. Don't erase the censor box. The censor box that he is talking about is a real, just the kind of thing that you would see like a salami hanging in an Italian deli window. This is a baseball bat of a penis that is being censored on this Bigfoot, who also has abs. Now, Denver Riggleman says that this is a long-standing joke with him and his military buddies. Does not deny the Instagram post. He did not say that he is hacked. And so credit to you, Denver Riggleman. But let's break this down, because there's more to this than meets the eye. Number one, Denver Riggleman has troubling ties that he denies with some politicians and activists that were involved in the Charlottesville protest and eventually the death of Heather Heyer. So there's that. Leslie Cockburn, by the way, is the mother of actress Olivia Wilde, and therefore the mother-in-law to Jason Sudeikis, since they are married. Just in case this story could not get any weirder. But you want to know what? A lot of people have talked about this story. A lot of people have pointed and laughed at this story. A lot of people have made a lot of hay, and they've written a lot of trend pieces about Bigfoot erotica. Hell, the Grand Master Tingler himself, Chuck Tingle, who has made more out of gay erotica than anybody I can ever think of. He has had more mainstream success based on gay erotica than anybody I know or can think of. He has already written a book, a new Tingler, if you will, about this situation. In fact, I believe the name is You Should Not Vote for Debner Wiggleman because he is full of hate, not because Bigfoot makes him hard. But nobody else, not MSNBC, not the LA Times, not Fox News, nobody. Not fucking Rush Limbaugh, not Love It or Leave It, not Pod Save America, none of them. None of them will do what I am about to do right now on the Politicsx program. Seriously discuss the political implications of accusing your opponent of cranking it to Bigfoot. Yeah, no one's going to take this seriously. I am. Was it a good idea for Leslie Cockburn to make Bigfoot's dick a political issue? I am here to tell you that if we are to understand that this is indeed Wave Watch, I think that bringing up Bigfoot's erect phallus brings the Democrats farther away from the majority in the House. I do. I think that this has elevated this race to beyond being a local thing. So, I mean, probably a better idea there. But Leslie does not come off good here. Leslie comes off as, at the very least, nosy, and even to some in her own constituency. And in midterm elections, it is all about exciting your base, specifically for the Democrats in this case, because they need to be motivated by, we are going to take back the House. Democrats, more than Republicans, are going to fall into the idea that maybe I like her just a little bit less because she's a kink shamer. I don't know how many Republicans are going to think that, but Democrats might. So you are eroding your own base, if even just a smidge, just a little. But also, there's no way that this race is going to become about anything else other than Bigfoot's dick. Now, literally, every time that you meet with a reporter, you're going to be answering a question about Bigfoot's penis. Both candidates. This is now the number one issue in your race. And so if you are Leslie Cockburn, you have now traded, is my opponent a white supremacist? Very juicy issue to your base. This is Virginia, after all. They had to deal with the Charlottesville stuff. You have now traded that as the number one issue for Bigfoot's dick. So imagine Leslie Cockburn like Indiana Jones. There's the idol. The idol is, let's just talk about whether or not my opponent is a Nazi. And then the bag of sand is Bigfoot's dick. And she's just trying to replace it as smoothly as possible. Because once you, go ahead and ask Christine O'Donnell how much anybody wanted to talk about any of the issues beside the fact that she was once palling around with witches and may or may not have gotten fingered on a satanic altar. Once you put the big, juicy, ridiculous shit out there, the stuff that I love, the stuff that is headline clickbait specifically in these issues, as soon as you give the juicy piece of fat, the candy, the ice cream, the frosting, it's all anybody's going to want to eat. Because once you go from that to, but for real, let's talk about taxes, boring, can we talk about how veiny Bigfoot's dick is again? This is message control, right? This is the ABCs of getting elected. So that is my serious analysis of whether or not introducing my opponent's love for Bigfoot is a good idea. I think it's a bad idea. Unless you can show that he is being duplicitous or that his perversion is something outside the norm to the point where people are turned off by him and you can erode his more traditional base, it's a mistake. I think she made a mistake unleashing Bigfoot's dick. You want to talk about Bernie Sanders? I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. All right, let's talk about Bernie Sanders. I got some Bernie Sanders thoughts. This is an article here that caught my eye this morning from the Daily Beast. It says, Bernie Sanders wades into high-stakes primaries for young progressives, written by Gideon Resnick of The Beast. Beast has had a lot of really, really good scoops lately. So big ups to the Beast. Whoever's running their news, their political news department, they're killing it lately. As the year's primary contests draw to a close in the next 2 months, Senator Bernie Sanders has started to weigh in more aggressively in high-stakes gubernatorial contests, where he is hoping to lift young progressive candidates who face challenging odds. Should his support prove effective in elevating these candidates, Sanders could prove to be a valuable kingmaker in November's crucial midterm elections prior to any presidential run in 2020. Now, this is obviously an issue because of one woman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She scored that gigantic upset in New York. And now the idea of the exciting socialist young wing of the Democratic Party becomes more and more of something to fixate on. There is no more high-profile forefather of that movement than Bernie Sanders. Before we actually get deeper into Bernie Sanders, let me make a few comments about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is very lucky that she's on the left. As I have said here before, it is not something to bitch about, but all candidates, like when you are playing D&D or World of Warcraft or anything, you get a character sheet. So if you are going to run as a Democrat, you get plus 12 media favorability. Because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has done a couple interviews now that I've watched where it has not gone well, in my opinion. She kind of comes off as Alexandria Christine / O'Donnell. She's young. She's unprepared. This is her first major race. You're going to make these kinds of mistakes when you are unprepared. Now, when you are running as a Republican, you get negative 12 media favorability. So you need to be on top of your shit, or else you flame out like Christine O'Donnell, you flame out like Sarah Palin, and we're going to have more to talk about Sarah Palin in a second. But she went on The Daily Show and got a lot of shit wrong and did not come off well. IMO. This is not to say that she's not a good politician. It's not to say that she's not going to be a good representative for the people that elected her and put her there. I'm just saying she did not come off well to me. And if there were a more critical eye toward her, they would be picking her apart. So the right media does, but nobody really gives a fuck about the right media when it comes to her because she's going to get elected. You know, the dude who's running against her is literally running to like reform divorce laws because he had a bad divorce. So she's going to win. She doesn't give a fuck what any of the right media says, but she's lucky she's at where she's at right now. That's all I'll say. Because she's getting national attention, and if she did not have that plus 10 media favorability rating on her character sheet, it would be worse. All right. Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders helps fundraise and elect young Democratic socialists in the midterms, then he will be more favorable in 2020. I think that the charge will be for him to run in 2020. Now, is this current run of democratic socialism sustainable? Let's compare it to something like the Tea Party. An insurgent wing on the right of the party's mainstream that is pushing to gain more favorability? I think yes. The only problem with democratic socialism is that right now it does not have a gigantic donor base. Now, maybe that changes. Nothing brings out the dollars like success. But that, to me, will be a part of the sustainability. What brought the Tea Party to more prominence was the fact that there were Republican donors that wanted the party to go in that direction. This is where, like, the Mercers and Sheldon Adelson and stuff like that come in. Right now, we have not quite seen that with the Democrats, but fresh-faced, young, successful candidates will probably change that. How does this shape up for Bernie in 2020? Now, this is interesting because right now, the top two candidates that you would probably say on the left are Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. I think more people are going to run, but it seems as if those two are they're kind of the money favorites. In fact, there was a poll out today that had Biden polling ahead of Trump. Biden essentially would represent, let's just bring Obama back, right? Like, hey, fuck this nightmare. I want Obama back. Like, let's give it to his VP. And Warren would be, what if, picture if you will, Hillary Clinton had more progressive stances and wasn't named Hillary Clinton? You already made her the popular vote winner. What if we just removed the baggage and made her further to the left? Is that something that you might be interested in? Both of them are hurt by Bernie Sanders, IMO. Bernie's got a pure ideological stance than Elizabeth Warren, and certainly a more pure socialist ideological stance than Biden. I think it would drag both of them to the left, like it drug Hillary Clinton to the left. But when it comes to a Bernie versus Biden conversation, in my opinion, the more that Bernie is out on the stage, the better he tends to do. The more that Biden is on the stage, the worse he tends to do. Let's not forget that Biden has run for president several times. And before he was picked as VP, he was effectively drubbed out of the Democratic primary because he called the insurgent Obama, the black freshman senator from Illinois. Biden called him clean and nice. That was a scandal. It was a real issue for Joe Biden. It damaged his candidacy to the point where he had to leave the fucking race. Sorry, clean and articulate. It was not clean and nice, it was clean and articulate? I'm doing that from the top of my head. Somebody find what Biden said about Obama. If it was clean and articulate, that's even worse. Like, talk about fucking coded language. Jesus Christ. Talk about all the fucking so well spoken. It's like, yes, and you don't talk about everybody else like they're so well spoken. Here we go. Liger405 has the whole quote for me. You got the first mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and a clean and nice-looking guy. See, that's where I got clean and nice, so at least I didn't make that up. That's a storybook, man. So there we go. You have the first mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. Therefore saying that Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and all these other people that have run for president are not articulate or bright or clean or a nice-looking guy. Yeah. And this is like the putting Biden with Obama was perfect because Obama, I mean, Jesus, talk about Obama coming in with a plus 12 media favorability rating. He leveled up and was always adding to that. He had the big Obama shield. So whenever Biden did something weird or said something out of turn, it was like, kooky Uncle Joe. Whoa, best friends. Biden says weird shit. Obama is cool. They're best friends in the White House. I don't think it's going to be like that when he gets back out on that stage. I think people are totally forgetting the fact that he has been a disaster of a presidential candidate several times before. And if I'm going to bet money on whether or not he will be the beloved vice president who sits in Obama's shadow or the disaster of a presidential candidate, I'm going to say he's going to be the disaster of a presidential candidate. I think Bernie does well in these situations. I think he does. I think that he's somebody that will play well with what is looked at as the future of the party. Eureka Geek in our chat says, so are you telling us 4 more years of Trump? I told you this right after Election Day. If the economy is good, it will be very hard to beat Donald Trump. It will be very, 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 very hard to beat Donald Trump. And I think anybody who runs on a fuck Trump platform will be an issue. I think that you have to bring something else other than that. Here's another story I'm keeping my eye on. Republicans abuzz over Schmidt's divorce from the GOP. This is from Politico, an article written by Ben Schreckinger, Ileana Johnson, and Daniel Lippman. The one-time McCain strategist won't comment on his talks with potential 2020 Democrat Howard Schultz. If you're unfamiliar with the name Howard Schultz, he is the CEO of Starbucks. It has been long assumed that he was going to run or is going to run for president in 2020. Steve Schmidt is one of the people that is rumored to have heavily influenced the book Game Change, the initial book Game Change, about 2008, and was, I believe, involved tangentially in the HBO movie. Since leaving politics, he has worked with a PR firm. His client at that PR firm was Starbucks. Now he is leaving that PR firm, and not coincidentally, I think, Howard Schultz has stepped down from Starbucks and is now signaling that he might run in 2020. I said this when Trump was running. I was like, if he wins, it is going to be, it's a mad, 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 mad world of billionaires. All these rich motherfuckers are going to be like, for real? That dude's an asshole. No one likes that dude. He's stupid. I've talked to other fucking rich people and nobody likes him. I'm smarter. I'm more well liked. I can lead the country. I should do it. And now we have Mr. Schultz. Here we go. This is the article. Steve Schmidt's public break from the GOP and quiet departure from his corporate PR gig earlier this summer are fueling speculation in Republican circles that he'll advise a presidential bid from his longtime client, former Starbucks chief Howard Schultz, or another Democratic candidate in 2020. Questions about Schmidt's future began to swirl in June when he announced his departure from the GOP in a series of tweets embracing the Democratic Party. It was a rare act of defiance in a party that has mostly fallen in line behind President Donald Trump, one that has many Republicans talking about what exactly Schmidt plans to do next. Working for a Schultz campaign would complete Schmidt's decade-long process of estrangement from the Republican Party after spending much of his career at its highest levels. For now, he remains mum on his future plans and his conversations with Schultz. Quote, I don't have any plans to be on a political campaign, and I would never jump into one too lightly, Schmidt said in an interview. Howard Schultz is a hell of a man, a hell of a leader. I'm proud to call him a friend, but there's no campaign. I don't have anything to tell you. That quote right there, that is absolutely I'm running. Why are you even asking me such a stupid fucking question? I'm obviously running. If you did not read that as, of course I'm running, dummy, then I need you to listen to this again and go ahead and understand this. I don't have any plans to be on a political campaign, and I would never jump into one too lightly. Howard Schultz is a hell of a man, a hell of a leader. I'm proud to call him a friend, but there's no campaign. I don't have anything to tell you. He's running. I don't know why anybody would want to have Steve Schmidt run their campaign, though. He ran a very bad campaign for John McCain, in my opinion. Remember, John McCain only made it out of those primaries because literally everybody else fell apart. And then he took one of the most high-risk, high-reward gambles in presidential history by taking a national unknown in Sarah Palin from fucking Wasilla to the grand stage, and look how that turned out. Spoiler alert, poorly. Also, I hear through the grapevine that the McCains fucking hate him. He has already burnt one major bridge and made sure everybody knew that it was because Sarah Palin was a lunatic, not because he signed off on putting Sarah Palin on the ticket. That, to me, does not show leadership. That, to me, does not show somebody who is, the steady hand on the tiller. It makes sense that if he wants to rehabilitate his career, that he would go with somebody like Howard Schultz, because I don't know who else on the Democratic Party is going to be like, oh, yeah. Give me the Sarah Palin dude. That seems like a great way to run the campaign. Give me the Sarah Palin dude. We have a campaign ad that I want to get to, but Waffleophagus here in the chat makes this piano bar request. Were you planning on talking about the Koch brothers and their falling out with Trump? The falling out with Trump happened when Trump was running. Like, the Koch brothers have never liked Trump, and they backed literally every avenue to make sure that he was not going to be president by way of the GOP primaries. The Koch brothers are about market-based solutions. Donald Trump is about protectionism and tariffs. He believes that the United States is a business and should be protecting itself like a business. And I think the Kochs look at the United States as just kind of a thing next to the economy. And that the economy is best served by interacting with as many people as possible. it does not shock me that the Kochs and their fundraising network are, looking to back people that would stand up to Donald Trump. It surprises me a little bit that they would publicly say that they would be interested in funding Democrats. I'll be curious to see exactly how many Democrats they wind up putting money toward. But it is also very interesting to look at, like, there was nobody who was a bigger boogeyman on the left through the aughts and into the early 10s as the Koch brothers. They were villainous. They were, was it Professor Claw, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget? Whoever the motherfucker that only had his arm on the chair. So it's interesting, Dr. Claw. It is interesting to see somebody that was two people that were the boogiest of boogeymans. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe. If it. Let me ask y'all this. Blue teamers. If Koch money brought forth a successful end to Wave Watch, would you be happy? Or would you feel that it was Democrats selling out? Are they still the boogeyman? Or is the enemy of my enemy my friend? Write in theyoungamerican@gmail.com. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. I just know that, like, I'm going to be through the looking glass when I see a fucking retweet of an ad that was paid for by a Koch Foundation organization by somebody with that red rose of socialism in their in their Twitter handle. Like, I know that we'll just be through the fucking look. It'll just be over. It's like nothing will matter anymore. Like, we've always been at war with East Asia. The Koch brothers have always been defenders of democratic liberty. The Kochs largely sat out the 2016 election. At least on the presidential side. I think they backed a lot of congressional candidates, but they didn't give money to Trump, and I know they didn't give money to Hillary. Let's go ahead and play this campaign ad. This is from my home state of Florida. The current governor is term limited, so we have an open race. The Republican candidate, Ron DeSantis, has been handpicked by Donald Trump. And see if you can tell that he's really in to Donald Trump.
Everyone knows my husband, Ron DeSantis, is endorsed by President Trump, but he's also an amazing dad.
For the audio listeners, that is his wife, as is credited on the ad, Casey DeSantis. It now goes to what is being shaped to be home video footage, complete with the, like, running amount of time that is being recorded.
Ron loves playing with the kids.
Build the wall.
He reads stories.
That is his child building a wall out of cardboard bricks.
Then Mr. Trump said, "You're fired."
That is him reading to his kid from The Art of the Deal, where I don't believe that Donald Trump said, "You're fired." I believe that The Art of the Deal predates The Apprentice, but moving on.
I love that part.
He's teaching Madison to talk.
Make America great again.
That's him showing a Trump campaign sign to his daughter.
People say Ron's all Trump, but he is so much more.
Big league. So good.
Right after she says he's so much more, you go to a baby with a Make America Great Again onesie, and he says bigly.
I just thought you should know.
Ron DeSantis for governor.
Everyone knows.
I wonder. Do you think Ron DeSantis gets dizzy? You think sometimes he gets a little like lightheaded, like he just doesn't know, like he's like playing like dizzy bat baseball, like one of those things where he's just, you just don't know whether it's left or right, like one of those things. Yeah, you ever wonder if he gets dizzy when he's very busy swinging on Trump's nuts? Oh my God, this guy. I mean, look, I understand wearing your Trump endorsement on your sleeve. It has proven to be effective during at least the primary season of these midterms. But Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, you don't need to go like full, I am an automaton, I do everything that Trump says. Like, it's sycophantic at a certain point. You can just say, hey, look, I'm a Trump conservative. I believe in bleep blop ding dong and sing song, right? Like you can do that, but like to do like no. I am like, God, I love the next Ron DeSantis said, "Dear Trump, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. I even wrote my number in the picture at the bottom." Old growth canopy, but he's not all about Trump. Cut to scene of DeSantis swinging on Trump's orange nutsack with just the biggest smile on his face. Whee, says Ron DeSantis as he goes hither and yon on the scrot of the prez. Oh my God. Yeah, that's it. He's up like Miley Cyrus on Trump's orange nuts. Coming like a wrecking ball. And again, look, it's a winning solution. Donald Trump has not become as radioactive as I believe Democrats A, counted on him being, and B, would prefer him being. Donald Trump is still holding massive rallies for candidates. I think he's going to be a net positive for people that are in his camp. But at the same time, oh my God. Holy shit, folks. I mean, have some dignity. I mean, come on. After all, we need to take politics seriously. We need to make sure that we don't make a mockery out of this. We have to look at the numbers. We got to focus on what's important. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to find the mathematical truth the only way that we know how. Yes, folks. Please gather around as we take a look at a Nevada Senate.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Oh, yes. This is a Suffolk poll from July 25th to July 29th with 500 likely voters, a 4.4% margin of error. Coming up first to the stage, she is the challenger representing the Democratic Party. With 40% of the vote, it is But your headliner, he is the current sitting, defending senator from Nevada, the Republican, Dean Heller. That is Heller over Rosen with a 1-point spread. That is within the margin of error, well within the margin of error. This is actually a really, 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 really tight race that we are going to be watching here for you. And by the way, if you are in the Bay Area, hopefully we will have a link to buy tickets very, very soon. But the official Wave Watch, well, here we go. The Wave Watch comes to an end in Piano Fight, San Francisco, California, November 6th at 7 p.m. We will be recapping the best stories of the midterms, and we got some great ones this week. We will be updating you live as results come in. It's going to be an absolute blast, exclusive merch. The place to be is Piano Fight November 6th. Come join us, won't you? But first, let's go ahead and get into But Your Emails. TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com. Again, TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com. First, Tyler. He writes, I don't consider James Gunn to be a victim of the culture war, at least not in the sense that you are claiming. Disney does what Disney does. They look out for their best interest, and the interest is money. That's why Edgar Wright worked so hard to get Ant-Man into production, only to be kicked off the project. He just didn't share their vision. He didn't say anything offensive or do anything wrong, and look at that franchise today. It's fine, and we got Baby Driver out of it. Second, I think it's a bit hyperbolic to go down the dystopic rabbit hole, implying that nobody is safe from past jokes and rhetoric. James Gunn isn't a comedian. He's a filmmaker. Comedians and those who produce and create comedy albums are still largely safe, as long as you're not a huge, crazy racist. Take Jim Jeffries, for example. He's constantly saying horribly offensive and disgusting things, and he scores Netflix deals in his own TV show. He literally has a bit where he describes docking and making light of miscarriages and complains about people being uncircumcised. David Cross is similar when it comes to offensive stuff, and he's still all over the place. And people will always remember George Carlin for being the icon that he is. I don't think that comedians are at any risk of being destroyed by the so-called culture war, again, unless you're a big crazy racist. Third, we live in the Me Too era. Making light of rape and pedophilia aren't good. The big D can't keep him on for political reasons, but for their own safety. Not saying Gunn is bad or he did bad things, but what if we found out that he is and has, and then it looks like Disney just ignored the signs? It's not impossible. Maybe not likely, but not impossible. So maybe he was a victim of the culture war after all. But I don't consider him to be a victim of the left versus right war, just more of a casualty of Me Too. Again, sorry this is long. I still love your show, and I still think somebody at Comedy Central should be listening and giving you a spot on next to The Daily Show. You are a refreshingly nonpartisan voice. I disagree. I disagree on all 3 points, and let me go ahead and take it from the beginning. Number one, he is a victim of the culture war. This was dug up specifically by people who disagree with him politically to make the right feel the pain that, make the left feel the pain that the right feels that they were feeling. This was a politically motivated move. Pure and simple. And I don't think if you look at the origins of how that stuff was found, that you could really argue it. We are redescribing what the dividing lines are politically, and this is part of it. Number two, it's funny that you brought up Jim Jeffries, because I happen to know for a fact that he is terrified of things he said in the past becoming that is Jim Jeffries' terror that you just heard, of things from the past coming back to haunt him, specifically. My dystopic vision, and you're right, I am being hyperbolic, so I will agree with you there, is that once we set a sliding scale that triggers that you're fired, we don't know where that scale goes, and we are currently calibrating it, and I just don't know where it lands. Number 3, yes, we are in a changing world. There's no doubt that we live in a world that is different than it was when James Gunn put up those tweets. But I think we all do have to understand that in that era of comedy, which we can now look back on in distaste, do we find everybody at fault for trying to push those lines? Or do we understand that that was a cringe-worthy element of our past? I would tend to fall in to the world that it was a cringeworthy element of our past. I know that I have done and said stuff that I find cringeworthy now, that look bad in our changing times. And I'm glad that we have evolved to these times. But that is my opinion. But thank you so much for writing, Tyler. Sistro writes, if a minority party can start a completely bullshit investigation against the constitutionally elected president with zero probable cause, then it makes you wonder how unfair it is for anybody that is prosecuted by U.S. attorneys. There is no question that the alliance between the majority media and the Democrat Party is the greatest threat to American liberty in the history of this country. I did not want Trump as president either, but I am more afraid of this unholy alliance between the Democratic Party, the left-wing media, and the law enforcement intelligence bureaucracy than I am of anything Trump could ever do. Again, Trump was the second to last person that I wanted as president, but the tactics of the left are forcing me to support him. Sistro, I'm not doubting where you came from, but it is kind of, it's a little like, the last bar I wanted to go to was this bar where there's a bunch of guys with their shirts off. And the last thing I wanted to do was meet this nice gentleman with a mustache who's inviting me to do cocaine in the bathroom. And the last thing I wanted to do was start making out with him. I did not want to do this at all. This was the second to last thing I wanted to do tonight. If I were to list all the things I was going to do, then making out with this gentleman who shared his cocaine with me in the bar where all the men are shirtless was the second to last thing. I really didn't want to. It was that or seeing Mission Impossible. And I really didn't want to see Mission Impossible. I really didn't want to do that. So now I'm here. It was the second to last thing I wanted to do. Joking aside, again, I do think we said before that I think that if you are running as a Democrat, your character sheet comes with plus 12 media favorability. While my perspective as a former journalist certainly informs the fact that most of the journalists that I met were liberal, and I think that there is a natural inclination to this, I do think that the conversation about media bias is a little bit more complicated than just there is a top-down cabal. And I would disagree with you that the law enforcement intelligence bureaucracy is necessarily a left-leaning organization. I think probably by and large it tends to be a right-leaning organization. Where Trump runs afoul of it is that it is static. The people that are in those positions live in Washington, D.C., and don't like a change to the status quo. So I think that is where Trump and the intelligence community rub each other the wrong way. Also, Trump, unlike many people, has openly courted a fight with them, which they don't appreciate. So that's my take on it. Appreciate your perspective. Also, it's a gay bar, in case anybody didn't get that metaphor. Michael says, here is an excellent article from Salon looking at how the old Democrat elites are threatened by the likes of Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez. The old third-way Democrats had a meeting recently in Ohio, and they sound more like Nixon Republicans. I'm very disappointed with the reactionary actions of Schumer, Pelosi, Lieberman, and the like. The old guard, centrist, moderate Clinton Democrats are sure deathly afraid of the progressive movement. They cannot seem to wrap their heads around the fact that the middle-of-the-road mushy stands on the issues is not the way to defeat Trumpism. Hubert Humphrey would have no problem with the Democratic Socialist movement. In fact, they were his values too. He would have been out campaigning for Ocasio-Cortez. The old guard needs to step aside and let the progressive Democrats lead the way to victory. Otherwise, they will find a way to lose again. Just my personal opinion. Like, I know everybody gets so fucking annoyed whenever I do this, and so I'm going to do it. I'm going to know that I'm going to annoy a fair amount of you, up to and including Michael, who wrote in. But man, for anybody who listened to talk radio in the 09 to 012 range, it was that at a time where I would listen to a lot of talk radio because of the job that I had, and talk radio by and large is conservative talk radio. God, does this sound like Glenn Beck in 2009? God, does it. It sounds so much like the Tea Party. And I know a lot of you guys didn't listen to that, a lot of the folks who are excited about the progressive movement, but I'm just telling you, there is so much. If you are an Ocasio-Cortez super fan, like if you are a progressive socialist super fan, please do yourself a favor and study the Tea Party, because there's so much you can learn about how they succeeded and where they failed and where they capped out. Because, spoiler alert, in my opinion, this is a game of the weakest link. You're going to get to a certain level of excitement, and then you have to bank it into the establishment. You've got to moderate with them. You have to take everything you can and then moderate it, or else you wind up getting cut out. And that's what the Freedom Caucus is right now. So I'm curious, but man, it sounds so much like the Tea Party to me. Nick writes, I'm keeping this short so my point probably won't come across how I want it to. I think that while volatile, the culture war is indicative of healing. It used to be that when the public wanted to take down somebody, it required not much evidence and almost unilaterally succeeded when the media wanted to take them down. Now with Dan Harmon maintaining his career, it seems that the internet can be grounds for fighting back. Look, Laura Ingraham didn't lose her job. Dan Harmon didn't lose his job. There are times when this happens and people are immediately thrown out, and there are times that the corporate structure says here and no further. I do think that that's part of where we go from here, but I don't know if it's all of it. Mark writes, in honor of the Trump administration proposing significant changes to the Endangered Species Act, which was proposed by, of all people, Richard Milhouse Nixon, I decided to investigate America's presidential animals. It turns out that every president has had a pet except Trump and Polk. Even cold-blooded, racist, impeached Andrew Johnson had white mice as pets. Coolidge and Teddy Roosevelt had the most pets. Shockingly, Polk, a fellow petless president, hated tariffs. So there's no correlation between pets and tariffs as far as I can tell. You think Barron's going to get a puppy? Is Barron going to get a puppy? He might get a he might get a puppy. That's fascinating, though. I didn't know that. Thank you so much for writing that in, Mark.
Politics, 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 politics.
That about wraps it up for this edition of the show. Again, if you want to write in, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. If you have Amazon Prime, then go ahead and give me some money. It's free money. It's use it or lose it money. Head over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/JustinRYoung. If you don't have a Twitch account, you're going to have to make one. Just Google Twitch Prime, and it'll walk you through exactly how to give me $5 of use it or lose it money from Amazon to my Twitch account. Nothing out of your pocket. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Again, you can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. Sign up for my newsletter, the free political newsletter. We're up over 1,000 subscribers, and that is without any other outside promotion, all because of you guys. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Folks, that about wraps it up for us today. Remember, some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. Still more, man, they talk about politics, but this is the only show that talks about all motherfucking three. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Oh, also, I'm at Gen Con. EscapeRoomIndie.com. I'm there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Come visit me.